Hey everybody, welcome to Collie Outdoors. Today we're going to be talking about early season scouting, particularly for bow season. Here in North Carolina, deer season is going to be coming in next month, probably in another 3 weeks or so. So I've done zero scouting other than seeing deer and things like that from the roadway. But today we're going to take the four-wheeler, we're going to ride one particular farm, and hopefully we'll learn something. I'll tell you some of the things that I look for and plan for deer season, but you guys stay tuned. Hopefully we'll see some sign. What is going on, everybody? Neil and Brandon are out here again. I told you guys we would be bringing you a video shortly. We're doing some early season scouting. Actually getting a late start at this, and I decided to jump on the ATV, ride around, just see what kind of crops we had in the field. A lot of the places that we have are loaded with corn this year, and the spot that I had in my head, I've never still hunted over here at all. Came over here and there's literally nothing. It's a weed field. Gonna point some things out about that. Most of the time you would probably think that would be a negative. It's not always a negative, and I'll point out some things as to why. Stay tuned. Okay, so as I mentioned, we actually have a weed field here. It is surrounded by very thick hardwoods, as well as this little path here. It's grown up path. So one of the things that you could look for is, well, I'll just tell you like this. I am familiar with the block. I am familiar with the area, as our hunting club hunts in this area. Back behind me, you have railroad tracks on that wood line there. Just on the other side of the trees is a long set of railroad tracks. Down in this area, it's very swampy back behind it. The deer actually love to bed down in the swamp and down in the thick cutover. This is very, very old grown up cutover. The deer are actually down there. Whether there's anything planted here or not, there are deer in this block of woods. So you can actually use the knowledge that you have about the area to your advantage. One of the things that you can do, bring in something to bait the deer in. Here in North Carolina, we can actually bait deer with corn. So if you put corn out here, and a substantial amount of it, and maybe even some kind of attractant to let the deer find it very quickly, you would have a gold mine on your hands. That is a possibility that we may do here. I may actually put a stand down in the woods and bait it with corn here before the season comes in, and let them find it, have a couple of weeks to eat it undisturbed. And we could put a trail camera on it and kind of scout and see what is going on with that. So with that said, we're going to look around a little bit more and just see what we can find, and we'll try to bring that and post that on there as well. We're going to jump back on the four-wheeler here in just a few minutes, and maybe let Brandon drive me around, and we're going to see what are in some of the other fields before we consider doing something over here. Stay tuned. Okay, so we are in that path that I showed you on the video a while ago. What I wanted to kind of point out to you is a couple of things. Get this camera turn around here. Okay, so this block on the left-hand side, you really don't, this little head of woods, you really don't have to be concerned with that. The deer mainly bed down in this area over here on this side of the path. Now, one thing that you could always do, you could bring your lawnmower, tractor, bush hog, whatever. You come down here and you could actually mow this path down, which is a very strong possibility that we may do. If you mow this path down, number one, it's going to give you easier access to get in and out, and you could also put your bait right in the middle of this pathway here. Will other people find it? Yes. But with the hunt club that I'm in, everybody pretty much knows where you hunt anyway. So with that said, the reason why you would consider that, if you look right here, there's a perfect tree right in that general area that you could put a climber on, or you could put a ladder stand up in there, a lock-on stand, whatever you prefer. And literally there's no limbs in your way, and there's plenty of cover back behind you to help block you out. If you go right over here to this side, you'll see another. That tree there would be perfect as well. There is some cover back behind you to kind of break up your outline, to help hide you a little bit. And then if you put your bait, your corn pile, you could actually put it right over in this general area where I'm at right now and mow it down, mow you even just a walking trail in here, mow it down in the middle, and that would give you an opportunity to have a wide open shot, probably 20 yard shot at the most, 15 from over here. So something else to think about. Okay, so this is what is bordering the other side of the woods there, or just around the corner from where I just showed you on the path. This is another corridor that the deer use, full of deer. Our hunting club actually hunts this property. As you can see, it's a very, very long set of power lines. Deer are notorious for crossing back and forth on this. Down in about middle way of that power line, on either side really, the deer bed over there, but on the right side, down about halfway through, is a very thick swamp down there, swampy grown-up cutover, and that is where those deer typically like to hang out. So again, look for natural, I say natural, but these are all but natural corridors now that the deer will use. The deer will typically use the path more traveled, the easiest walking trail that it has to get from one point to the other. That's what deer are going to use. So use those to your advantage. If you've got an opening like this, the deer are going to use it, so you might as well use it too. Okay, so the reason I hopped off, I just want to show you guys this. Obviously, it's appearing that this entire farm is loaded with tobacco. Haven't seen as much tobacco this year because corn is in high demand, so therefore a lot of the farmers are planting that. So you're going to sit here and you're going to say, well, deer don't smoke tobacco, they don't chew tobacco, so why in the world would you hunt tobacco? Well, the tobacco is only going to be here just a little while longer. Here in North Carolina, they typically put a cover crop over there. As soon as they disc this up, they'll throw some winter wheat up, so this will be another spot for you to consider. Again, just off in this direction is where I just showed you on the path, and the little field that's secluded with the railroad tracks. And then over here, you've got the power lines. So a little field like this with tobacco, yes, it's tobacco now. It's not going to be good for anything, but it will be. So again, look at the terrain, look at everything around it, all the cover. Deer love thick cover. Obviously this is thick. So again, something to consider. Don't look at your cover crop now, look at what's going to be here come fall and winter. Okay, so I was getting ready to take off, go to another spot on the farm, but one thing I wanted to point out to you, it goes hand in hand with what I was just saying. Yes, there's tobacco here. However, if I can flip this camera or something, if you will look down in this general area, what do you see? You see your deer tracks. So, and they're, you know, going backwards and forward. They're going both directions. There's more. And what they're doing exactly what I was just saying. They're going to take that path that's easier for them to navigate, and they're going to walk it. So yes, there's nothing that you can see here for a deer to eat, but a deer is a browser, and that's what they're known to go out and find food. So they can, there's plenty of edible sources in this resources in these woods for them to find. But again, bringing in something of your own, some sort of bait, would just enhance that and probably have you sitting on a gold mine. So again, I just wanted to bring that home and show you that the deer are here and they are moving, even though there's not a crop here for them to eat. Okay, so this is another way of illustrating to you why you can't judge a book by its cover. When you first see it, you've really got to get into it, and that's the whole purpose of scouting. As you can see here, way off in the distance here, it's a huge soybean field, very, very healthy soybean field. Those beans are probably 3.5 feet tall. I'm up on top of my four-wheeler and they're still up to my waist. I'm standing up on my four-wheeler and they're that quick or that high. So again, straight out in front of where you're looking at now, about 100 yards across those trees there are those power lines that I showed you earlier. So again, easy thing for them to cross out of that thick cover that I told you about in the swampy bottom where it's really thick. They can walk right across, get out of this thicket and right into these beans here for an easy meal right before dark. So that, again, that power line would be a very good spot to catch the deer going back and forth across. Okay, just a couple of things I wanted to point out real quick. One of the reasons why we're using the ATV, because you cover a lot of ground quick. Some people will say, well, doesn't the noise, won't that run the deer off and scare them off and this, that, and the other, and the fumes from the gas? In my experience, I would say no, especially in farmland, big agriculture fields. They're used to hearing heavy machinery and everything else, vehicles and driving up and down, combines, tractors, you name it. But with that said, I wanted to point out a couple of things. We were driving down the path and around the bean field, and I saw this area that was just completely cleared out. It was a path all the way around the wood line. And again, it goes right back to what I was saying earlier. Use what God gives you to your advantage. If you will pay attention, I'm going to try to flip this camera around. See it? If you look here, you see deer tracks, and quite a few of them actually, going in and out. I mean, they're pretty much everywhere. So depending upon what is going on here, this could be a little gold mine location. Now I'm familiar with this particular area, and know that it is a deer haven all over the place here, surrounded out with what you're looking at now, where you can see the tops of those dead trees. There is just some of the thickest, gnarliest swamp that you'd ever want to see. So I saw some of the tracks over here. I decided to hop off, investigate, but that's excellent sign that you want to look for. The deer are using the path that the farmer cleared out, and guess where they're going? They're going to take that. They're walking right out of the woods into the beans, and as you can see, the tracks are still coming from this direction here, and guess where they're going? Right back into the woods. So I can see through the trees there and can tell that through the other side there are more soybeans there on the other side. But I'm not seeing a ton of other tracks that are going up this way, where the area stops, where the farmer stopped clearing out the area around the field and the woods. The track stopped. So what does that say? They're coming right out of the woods right here. This is probably a little funnel that they're going from spot to spot, and they're probably working their way through the woods, coming out right here, because this is where the majority of those tracks are going. And again, the evidence doesn't lie. There's nobody messing with our heads and saying, hey, let's stamp deer tracks in the mud to mess with Neil. This is just a perfect little spot. So again, if you could find a clearing in this general area right here, it's secluded because, as you can see, it's a little cut. They can come right out into the beans here. But again, if you could find you a tree in this general area right here, you would probably have a shot from there to here. Just something else to think about. Okay, so what we've got here are sweet potatoes. If you have sweet potatoes in your area and you are not hunting them, that is your loss. Let me just say that deer love them as much as we do, and they will tear them all to pieces. In my experience, I've shot deer with sweet potatoes in their mouth. as I've pulled the trigger, as I've released an arrow. And as you can tell, there are tracks here. The deer are definitely walking back and forth on this path here. And again, as you can tell, it's the roadway. That's actually what turned me on to this spot, is I've been coming by in the afternoons and seeing deer out in this sweet potato field. So it kind of intrigued me, wanting me to, I wanted to come over and check it out even more. Now the deer, they will actually dig these sweet potatoes up with their hoofs. As you can see, I'm still seeing deer tracks, and I mean a lot of them too. But the deer will actually dig them up. They can smell them. They know that they're there. And they'll dig them up with their hoof and then eat them. And I mean, there's a ton of deer sign on this one wood line here. I was just gonna see if I saw anything of any size, but the deer are tearing this up. I mean, they are tearing it up. So this is still the sweet potato field that I was showing you guys earlier. Like I was telling you, the deer will they'll come in here and just demolish these sweet potatoes. They'll dig them up. But one of the things I wanted to show you, if you were to go down here, you can see where they're still walking this cut area. Matter of fact, where I drove through earlier, just a few minutes ago, there were tracks everywhere going back and forth. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was the fact that if you follow the tracks, you will see that they're coming right out of this little head of woods right here, a lot of them. And I found multiple that were coming out. Here's another set here, as you can see. Pretty good sized deer too. But when you walk up, you can see that they're coming out of this little patch of woods. Well, it just so happens that just on the other side of these little trees right here, not 10 yards over, 10, 15 yards over, you can see a little bit of the opening. There is a set of train tracks there, and those deer will actually walk those tracks. Again, because it's no resistance, it's easy walking. They come right out of a swamp bottom, which is on the other side of that, and they'll walk up those tracks. They'll walk right up the hill. They'll come right through this little opening and right into the bean field. So again, somewhere in this general area could be a gold mine for you. You just have to know, look for walking corridors and look for bedding areas. A deer typically wants to bed down in the nastiest stuff possible. Why is that? Why is that? Why do they want to bed down in the nastiest stuff possible? For a simple reason. You're not going to find them, and they're going to hear you or see you coming long before you see them, and they can get out of danger. So I know for a fact that with all around me, and this general area here is super thick. You cannot walk through it, but a deer can. And then again, down in that swamp, down on the other side of those tracks, again, that's another good area that those deer can bed in. But when they get up and they're ready to go feed in the early season, when they want to come to these fields, this is where they're going to go, and they're probably going to come right through that little opening like I was talking about. And as you can tell from the tracks, that's exactly what they're doing. And they're way back off the road. That's at least 300 yards across there. They can stand here, they can see everything. There's a path that comes in off that we drove in on, and there's no other way in, so the deer can see all danger coming. So this is the opening that I was showing you guys a while ago, that where the tracks were coming in here. They actually, it's a pretty worn down trail here, and you can see where something's actually been walking right over that tree limb right there. And I don't know how good you can see it, but there's actually like scrapes on the tree where it's had enough traffic that stuff has actually walked right over top of it. So to me, this looks like a perfect opportunity to catch those deer coming through that trail, to angle and go right out into the field where I was showing you before. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to hang this covert camera here and get it set up. And what we're going to try to do is angle this thing to where it'll film coming straight down that walkway, hopefully, and catch whatever these deer are that are going out here. Now, you can see the railroad tracks that I told you about. Most of the time, the deer are not going to want to come up a steep bank like that, right? They will. And if you look for tracks down in the mud, which I don't see any here, that tells me that they're not coming up through this area. As fresh as those other tracks were, you would be able to see that, but they're not. So that tells me that they're coming either out of that swamp straight down this way, and they're crossing the tracks at a low spot about 150 yards down, and then they're coming up through this little head, or they're funneling out of that cutover and coming down through here. That's my thoughts on this anyway. And I just wanted to explain to you. Oh, well, I just kind of got confirmation. There you go. And it's not a one-time thing. They're actually coming through here pretty regular. There's more that's been stepped on right there. So you can see where they're actually walking out of here on a regular basis. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. A lot of sign. Let's just see what we can get on camera. Stay tuned. We're going to turn this camera on here. We're going to get this thing set and get out of here, because the more time that we're here, the more scent that we're leaving. Look for the red light flashing. That's good to go. Okay guys, so there you have it. I've kind of talked about some of the things that I look for during deer season. I hope you guys learned something. Stay tuned, because when we come back here in maybe in another week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks, I'll check that camera and we'll kind of make a decision on if I want to throw up a lock-on stand there, or even take a climbing stand somewhere on one of the spots that we looked at. I'm going to be putting out more cameras on the farm as well, but today I just wanted to do one, and just to kind of start and see, you know, what some of the deer that I've been seeing from the roadway were. So hopefully we'll see some bucks on camera. If we don't, then we may transition. You never know, we may even shoot a doe during bow season if we get the opportunity. But hope you guys learned something today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do like what you're seeing, please hit that like and that subscribe button. Share our channel if you don't mind, so we can get our viewership up. Thank you so much.